A moment ago, but so you see a lot of quotes like this. Seriously, you're asking about the workforce of the future as if there's going to be one? There's a lot of gallows humor about artificial intelligence, automation. McKinsey did a study last year that was widely read. I encourage all of you to go just skim through it. If you type in McKinsey and skill shift automation, the future workforce, it's like 100 pages, but it's a very interesting report. But one of the charts that stood out to me the most was really looking at what are the skills that are going to be in demand. And you can see a lot of what's going to be in demand are things like creativity in the middle, complex information processing. And the next one, which I'm going to talk about, is social-emotional skills, entrepreneurship, being able to think outside the box, right? Being able to solve problems. And then, of course, some of the tech skills. And I think that's really exciting for all of you, because that means you're going to be able to use your higher order thinking skills in your careers to solve problems and lead and make a difference. It's going to be really exciting opportunities out there. And so, as someone who founded a company in the social emotional learning space, what I'll do today is I'll share some of the things that I've learned about that. And you can see again from the Pew Research Center, a report that just came out. Tough to teach intangible skills, capabilities, and attributes such as emotional intelligence, curiosity, creativity, adaptability, resilience, and critical thinking will be most highly valued. So if you look at all of what the researchers and experts are saying, they're saying these higher order thinking skills that are going to matter the most, right? Now, I'm going to share with you three aspects of my story, some of the things that I've learned. Now, look, I have about 40 minutes to speak. I want to do some Q&A after that, and then wrap up my session. So when you're asked to share your story, you can't just share every part of who you are, right? Because you have a set amount of time. So what I like to think about it is a good presentation, it's never about the presenter. Who's a good presentation always about? It's about the audience, right? So always remember that. If you are ever asked to present somewhere, in my opinion, the number one thing you can always remember, the presentation is never about you, it's always about the audience. So if you get up and share a bunch of stories about yourself that you like to tell, but they're not really relevant or used to the audience, then you really failed as a presenter. Because speaking is an act of service to those that are in the room. You're supposed to share some things that help them move along their journey, right? And so that's my way of saying I'm going to share some stories about what I experienced as an entrepreneur, how I came to this country, but all of that is done with a clear connection, hopefully, to something that matters to you. I'll make a business connection to it each time, because ultimately, I have a story, but so does every single person in this room. All of you have your own stories, right? And your story matters, and we want to help you come up with insights and ideas for moving that story forward, right? So, if I were to run into you a year from now, and I ran into you at O'Hare Airport, and you said, "Hey, Mawi, I heard you present. I liked the presentation," and you were able to tell me you enjoyed it, I would say thank you, and I'd shake your hand. Okay. Now, if you come to me a year from now at O'Hare, and you say, "Hey, Mawi, I heard you present. I liked the presentation, and here's one thing I did as a result of your presentation." You tell me that at the airport, I won't just shake your hand and say thank you. I'll buy you a sandwich at the airport. I mean that. I'm not joking. I call that because the whole point of a presentation, a conference like this, is if you don't go back and do something differently with your education or your career or how you think and operate as part of being here, what was the point of you being here? So you always want to think, how can I apply what I learned? And you might think I was making that up. This is a student I ran into at Midway Airport. He didn't want a sandwich, he wanted Chinese food. So here he is. And I know sometimes students are skeptical, so I have a receipt to prove it. There you go. It's kind of expensive Chinese food, but it's fine. We had a great conversation. He shared with me how he applied, and that's really how I hope you think through my presentation is how can I apply something that Mawi talked about in my own experience? How can I, in my opinion, if you can come out of any presentation with one useful, relevant thing for yourself, that's a big win for you, because you can apply that to better yourself in some way, right? And not just for my session, but all the sessions you go to today, right? That's how, because later on you go out to Chicago, have a great time, enjoy yourselves, that's great. Now it's a time to really get your professional hat on, and have your thinking hat on, to grow as a professional, right? So, if you're, any Twitter people in the house? Twitter, anybody? Alright, so you can follow me on Twitter if you want, share thoughts. I know, not that we can go on Facebook anymore, but if you're a Facebook person, you can hop on there. And I love Twitter because you can have lots of conversations on Twitter with all sorts of people. People respond. One of the ways I would encourage you to use Twitter, whatever your focus is, if you're into, let's say you're research about accounting and forensic accounting, for example, if that's something you're into, go follow the top 10 experts that work in that area and just read through their tweets, what they're writing and thinking about. You learn a lot by by doing that, right? And I do that for my area. So social emotional learning, I follow all the top researchers, I follow the top trade associations, I see what reports they're putting out, I respond to those. It's a really easy way to stay current and to stay, and then you can hit people back, and tweet back at them, and develop relationships like that, right? All right, so let's jump in. And I promised you three kind of parts of the presentation where I'll share a story, try to derive an insight from it that's useful to you. Whenever I want to check to make sure you understood me, I'm not going to say did you understand. I'm just going to say check. When I say check, please say check back at me. That's letting me know that you understood. We can keep going. Let's try that. Check. Check. Let's hear it from the gut now. Check. Check. Oh, that's nice. All right, fantastic. By the way, that's a great calm response I like to do if I'm ever somewhere with like 20 students and I'm in a room and I want a little calm response. I'll just use that. So there's a sandwich moment for you right there. You can use that calm response. Okay. So this is a picture of my family when we were in Sudan before we came to this country. We were refugees. And if you want to read the whole story, there's a book called The Beatles and Angels. It was on the Oprah show that I wrote. I'm not going to have time to get into the whole story. But my family, we were refugees, and then we were resettled in the United States. You know, through the same program that you read about in the news right now, right? The U.S. is thinking they're going to resettle 18,000 refugees this year. Well, my family would have been among the 18,000, right? They came. And one of the experiences that was very interesting for my family was the first time we went to a big Walmart, okay? First came to the States. I want to walk you through what that was like and kind of derive an insight from that you might find unexpected or interesting and possibly relevant to your work. So, you know, when I was in the village in Sudan, I lived in a small hut made of straw and mud, right? There was no running water, there was no electricity, and had never been in a hotel like this or experienced anything like this. And you know, we came to the States. My family was resettled outside of Chicago in a town called Wheaton, Illinois. And there's a college there called Wheaton College. Anyone know where Wheaton is? Know what that is? Yeah. So it's a small town it's actually about 30 minutes west of here, about southwest of here, and so we're growing up there, and I remember we started going to these big grocery stores, these big Walmarts, and we have Jewels and Asgedom and all these things here, and I would love to share with you that first experience, some of the early experiences. My father, so it would be my father and my three siblings would be walking in, and a couple things about my family. First of all, we didn't smell like other families do. Okay, so in my culture, there's two ingredients we cook with quite a bit. It's onions and garlic. In fact, when I was graduating from Wheaton North, I remember high school, one of my more embarrassing moments was when my mother told me, hey, I want you to go to the local grocery store, we're going to have a big party, and I want you to buy every single onion there, every onion. So it's really embarrassing. I had two big shopping carts filled up, onions to the top. The manager actually came to see whether there would be no onions in the store left for the next couple of days. And you know, I'm making sure nobody said, but I took those onions home. Mom was there, and there were about 9 other Ethiopian women at my house, and they chopped up the onions faster than you could believe. Okay, had these had these tables set up. They made these big pots. You put the onions in there. You put all the garlic in there, and you have to let that Ethiopian stew, that base, the onion and the garlic and the tomato paste, a better spice. You gotta let that simmer for about 2 or 3 hours before you add in the meat and other things. You know what that means? Every fiber of clothing in the house, every molecule, every apple smells like onions and garlic. So they never had to take attendance when I was in school. They could just be like, yep, there goes Mawi, right? Across the way, right? And so I want you to imagine you're about to walk into this Walmart, and my family is right behind you, and you start to smell something. You're like, man, they got some weird samples at Walmart today, right? You start to smell that onion and garlic. Well, that's just a warm-up, because I want you to now imagine, put your arm out like this, okay? Now this is a true story, guys, I can't make this up. Grab your arm with the other hand. Guys, that's my dad coming up behind you, and he has grabbed you by the arm, and you turn around, you see this man, clothes are clashing, smelling like onions and garlic, and here's what he'd say to you. Agus, excuse me, wear sale paper. See a lot of confused looks out there, y'all. Same looks I saw before, and what he's saying is, hey, excuse me, sale paper, what it means is he wants you to go with him where they have the brochures for what's on sale at Walmart that week, And he wants you to go page by page and read to him what's on each page and advise him on what he should purchase for the family for the upcoming week from Walmart. So I'm in the back, I'm like, I don't like it when you touch people around here, okay? You can't come up to people you don't know and touch them and grab them by the arm and ask them questions. I want to disappear, right? I want to disappear. Well, so fast forward on this story. Quite a few years later, I had founded Mawi Learning, a social emotional learning company. And, our mission was to drive academic growth and student well-being through the application of social emotional learning. And we created courses like these. These are some of our popular courses. They've been taken by more than 100,000 students for credit in high schools all over the country, right? So things like college and career readiness, Super ELL, critical thinking and study skills, leadership skills development. So what my company did was we created this software and we sold it to school districts, right? For example, in Chicago Public Schools, it's very near here. We work with a lot of schools there, right? So, you know what our most popular course was that really helped my company take off and make our mark, our most important market? It was a course called Super ELL. ELL stands for English Language Learner, right? And that was a course that talked all about the immigrant experience and how students could be successful in the school system in this country, right? And so we had partners like Miami-Dade School Systems where they had over 350,000 students. And out of their 350,000 students, more than 200,000 were either English learners or former English learners. We said, I guess, over 50%. And you know what was really helpful in creating that class? To have actually gone through some of the same challenges some of those immigrant kids are going to go through. You know the moment that I had to get to in my childhood, it took me a long time, I'm embarrassed to say, I had to get to the point where I could go anywhere in this country and say, hey, you know what? That's my father, Hailab. My mother would say, hey. They don't look like you do. They don't smell like you do. They don't have the same kind of jobs like you do, perhaps. But you know what? I love them with every part of who I am. There's nobody on the planet that can make me the tiniest bit ashamed of who I am, where I come from. That's right. It was necessary for me to have that confidence in my background and that belief that I had strength and value regardless of my background before I would ever be at the point where I could create a class like this. It would then help tens of thousands of other people. So the takeaway that I'm suggesting for all of you, of course, is the things that you have gone through up to this point in your life, some of the things that have pained you the most, that have been most embarrassing, that have challenged you, or perhaps you have valued yourself less, flipping that script and coming to see those things as strengths and being able to accept all parts of who you are can be a competitive advantage in business. It was for me. There was no other competitor that had a class like that, right? There was no other competitor. We won and dominated that market, and we had authenticity there based on our experience that really resonated, and we were able to grow much faster, and it's one of the reasons that ACT acquired us. Because ACT, part of ACT's vision is they want to help people from all backgrounds and races have opportunity in the workforce. And so I was able to flip that disadvantage into a strength, into something that has both helped me help people, but also helped me make a lot of money in the process. So I'm going to give you some time at your table here, or the folks that you're by. Take 90 seconds. What did you make of this story of taking something that was a source of humiliation, a source of stress, of embarrassment, of weakness, of thinking, man, this is something that's negative, and coming to find out it was an incredible strength that was a cornerstone of my work and company success. What does that make you think of with your own life? I'll give you a few seconds just to comment about that. Go ahead and chat at your table about that. If you're able to discuss a little bit, share with each other, spark some ideas, that can double the amount that you retain, and that's my goal, is for you to kind of think through these things a little bit. And everyone has things that make them feel bad about themselves, things when you look at your background. Some people were born with a lot of money, they feel bad that they had privilege. Some people were broke, they feel bad they were broke. Some people, feel bad about some of the similar stuff that I went through, where you're an immigrant, you had to kind of fight to establish that value. What I had to learn how to do is have a completely strength-based view of who I was, and not be ashamed of it or unabashed about it, and say, hey, I have a lot to contribute, I have a lot of value, and there's nothing I'm going to apologize for my background, and I'm going to bring that confidence and strength with me to every meeting I go to, and to the approach that I take in life. I think that's critical for success in business. So I'm going to talk to you now about a concept I call turbo, which is one of my favorite social emotional learning concepts. And these are my 3 kids. I have a 5th grader, a 4th grader, and a 4-year-old. A lot of fun with these kids. Wish I had an hour to just tell you some hilarious stories about them. There's some awesome kids. And how many of y'all recognize this? Anybody know what this is? What is it? Somebody yell it out. Fortnite. What skin is this in Fortnite? Anyone know? Raven. Man, this is the difference between talking to a group of college students and folks who are older. They're like, what is this? And I have to kind of explain everything about Fortnite. But Fortnite, I gotta tell you guys something. Do you know that basically every 4th grader in America plays Fortnite? So all my son's friends all play it. It's not just you guys, but your friends. The 3rd graders play it, 4th graders play it. They're all playing this game. And so my son comes up to me a little while ago and he says, hey Dad, I need $25. I'm like, $25? At least the kid's asking for $1, $5, I need some candy, $3, something like that. $25. And he's like, okay, what do you need that $25 for? He goes, well, I need to buy the Raven skin in Fortnite. Now for the old heads like me in the room, okay, what that means is, see, back in the day, when you bought something for $25, you bought a game that you kept, right? Like you actually bought Tecmo Bowl football, RBI baseball, or and you had that, you inserted it, and that was your game now for the $25. You keep it forever, you give it to your friend. What my son is saying, when I play Fortnite, which is a game you can download for free, I want to be wearing this so my friends know I'm cool, okay? So I want to pay $25 for these virtual clothes. Some of y'all thinking, you lost your mind, right? Which is what I'm thinking, right? Like, no. I'm not spending, especially my background, we are not spending $25 for fake clothes or an invisible glider, whatever other junk there is, right, that we got to spend money on, right? So, I believe that whenever anybody shows, some desire, though, you shouldn't just dismiss it, right? So I said to him, okay, you've been taking this viola and violin classes for a while. Let's see how much money you make if we take you out front for the library. You can make your own money, okay? So how about you play for 45 minutes? He was 9 years old. How much money do you think he made?
$5.
He made $49 or $64 an hour, okay? And then we have a rule at our house. This might be a good thing for you to remember, college students. I don't think you should be this aggressive at college level, but our rule is you make $1, you can spend 50 cents, you have to save 50 cents, okay? Or give that other portion to charity, right? Now, I'm not an unreasonable dad, so I spotted $1, bought it up to 50, right? So you can buy the Fortnite skin, right? And 25. Now, what am I getting at here? Why did I do this? Why did I just give my son the $25? That would have been very easy to do, right? I could have done that, right? Could have given my son the $25, and he would have been happy and played his thing. But I said, no, you gotta get that money. Well, this idea, I'll share with you another story. I love video games. I've always loved video games. In fact, when I first came to the U.S. and I saw, let's tell you how old I am, I saw an Atari for the first time. I was like, whoa, I've never seen anything like this in Sudan, right? And that was just Pong, like hitting balls back and forth, right? It was nothing like the amazing system we have now. So I was playing, I think it was Nintendo 64 with my brother back in the day. And we were playing, and my brother was destroying me in any game we played. In soccer, he was beating me 90-0, as you see here. In football, he beat me 49-7. In basketball, he beat me 80-10. He just dunked on me, just always smashing me in ways that I couldn't understand, right? Because I wasn't that bad at video games. So we played for a few hours, and then I said to him, how do you beat me so badly? And he turned his controller upside down, and there was a button I didn't know about. It's called the turbo button. And this is a button on the other side of the controller. And he'd hit that button, and it gave him all the extra juice and energy. And that's why he was beating me so badly. Well, I turned my controller, once I started hitting that turbo button, I started to do a lot better. I had a lot more energy than I thought. I started to do a lot better than I thought. And what I'm getting at, of course, is just a random story. A good way to think about one of the key social emotional competencies that a lot of research have identified is just like there's a button on a video game that you can hit, and you do a lot better if you're hitting that button. You have all sorts of energy. The idea is there's also a turbo button inside our hearts and our minds. That's saying each of you in this room has a turbo button. And when you hit that turbo button, you get a lot more power. You can have more power to dunk, jam, whatever it is, whatever metaphor you want to use. By the way, one of the things I discovered about social emotional learning is it's a pretty complex field, and also it's abstract. What I mean by that is I could go to the store and I could buy some potato chips, right? And you can see and hear and smell potato chips, but you can't buy some growth mindset from the store. You can't buy empathy from the store. And so we live in a world that's vivid, things you can buy, see, that like the Fortnite skin, where a lot of the social emotional competencies are invisible. So what we have to do is we have to take metaphors like a turbo button that elevate that social emotional competency and make it real so that we can see it and talk about it. And the simpler the metaphor, the better, right? And that's one of the things I pride myself in Mawi Learning as we ran that company was, and we continue to run it with ACT is, taking the complex and make it simple so it can be usable on a daily basis for people. It's very difficult to do, but I feel like if people can't apply the social emotional learning, you've not helped them. I truly believe that. So people have to be able to apply whatever you teach them. So the idea is, in any situation, there's a button you can hit. So when my son came up to me and said, hey, I want $25, I said, no, you hit your turbo button. Okay? You get your own $25. I'm not going to act like you don't have creativity, you don't have intelligence, you don't have skill. You have some. So I'm going to push you to hit that turbo button and get it for yourself in some way. And I'll help you, because you're 9. And I'm not going to act like you can do it all by yourself. But ultimately, the thing that I want understood is, this comes on you. You kind of heard it earlier. I don't know if you watched that video. There's a very nice video earlier, a gentleman talking about philosophy of business. He talked about one of the things that really he advises young professionals is don't focus on what everyone else is doing. He's saying hit your turbo buttons. I want you to focus on what you're doing and where your career is headed and not compare yourself to others, right? And a good way to think about it is we all have resources, intelligence, skills, talents, families, friends. We have all these resources in our lives. And researchers have a term called locus of control. And the way it works is when you're focused on things you can't control, that's out like the weather, you have very little power. So if my son focuses on the fact that he's got a mean dad that can't give him money or Fortnite's so expensive, that's not going to give him any power. What researchers say is instead, we consistently need to be focused on our internal locus of control, which is every possible thing we can do. Every possible thing we can do to achieve success and move forward. And that gives you a lot of power. And so, again, training my son, focus on your internal locus of control. What is it that you can do to go get that money? This is the mindset you need for entrepreneurship, in my opinion, is to always bring it back to yourself no matter what, and always be willing to move forward, right? I learned this philosophy from my older brother, who was a big inspiration to me, and this is one of the sadder parts of my story that sometimes I don't share in my presentations. A lot of times I don't share, but I'll share it with all of you today. My belief is that a lot of times the things in life that are the biggest challenges we go through and the most painful things we experience can also be the things that most inspire us. I believe that based on a lot of experiences I've had. And so the way that manifested in my life was, my best friend throughout my whole life was my older brother. He was a senior in high school and I was a sophomore. Something terrible happened. And that's that he took a trip up to Montana to visit a friend of his. He was driving on the highway. It was right around Christmas break and holiday break. And a drunk driver came on the road, slammed into my brother's car, and my brother passed away when he was in high school. And I was a sophomore in high school. I want to share with you one of the things that my brother did, though, when he was in high school, that kind of really inspired me and helped me establish this turbo philosophy on life, even before I knew what the research was. And what he did was, my family, when we were in high school, we were living in low-income housing. We were free and reduced lunch kids from 1st grade through 12th grade. We didn't have a lot of money. My father was legally blind, and my mother worked a minimum wage job. One of the things my brother did was, he had a mentor and a friend who had a cleaning company. And that friend, my brother started cleaning with him, and then my brother said, hey, you know what, I'm going to start my own company. So this is actually my brother's business card that he had when he was in high school. He printed it up, and I would go with them, and he would just knock on any strip mall door, say, hey, I'll clean your office for $50 twice a week. And by the time he was in high school, I saw he was able to make more than $1,000 a month when he was a junior, senior at Wheat North High School while going to class. And the reason I found that inspiring was I thought, man, here's my brother. He's got all these financial challenges, yet he's found a way to hit that turbo button, focus on what he can control, and he's been able to grow and do some things that you think weren't possible. So after he passed away, that memory never left, which is one of the reasons after I graduated from Harvard, I didn't hesitate. I started my company right away after I graduated from Harvard. A lot of other folks, there's a saying at Harvard, at the graduation, there was a presenter, and he said, one of the students said, here at Harvard, we go into every field known to man, everything from investment to banking. And that's because back then, everyone wanted to work at Goldman Sachs, right? Everyone wanted to work in banking. And I said to myself, you know what? If my brother could start this business when he was 16, how quickly are you going to respond? It's much easier to hit what I call the victim button. That's a metaphor for the external locus of control, to focus on the flood that just happened. And typically, I make the turbo really small. Because the turbo button is small, it's harder to remember, right? Intelligence, talent, and allows you to have some power, right? How many of y'all here have a desire to be an entrepreneur at some point in your career? Just look around the hands. Yeah, so a lot of you want to do it, right? I think it's fun. To me, it's been a tremendous joy and privilege. I'll tell you a lot of reasons why. My mother, before she came to this country, she never got a chance to go to school for one day in her life. She didn't know how to read or write any language. She could have never imagined a situation where she'd be at a conference like this, right? And then guess what? All of you in this room have opportunities that are far beyond what people like my mom had the first 20, 25 years of their lives. And levels of education, networking opportunities like this. When I look at countries like Ethiopia, where for a long time there wasn't a higher education system, really. Even today, I don't believe we can throw a conference like this with so many different colleges, right? They're at this level. The business environment here, we talk about the challenges and regulations in this country, how difficult it is. I have a friend who runs the Gates Foundation in Ethiopia, their work. He told me, even as the Gates Foundation, it took 1 year for them to get set up as an entity in Ethiopia. In Illinois, you would have been set up in weeks. Okay? Maybe the nonprofit status would take longer, but you really can do a lot of things as an entrepreneur in this country. I truly believe that. I've experienced that. And so I think it's a phenomenal opportunity for all of us. What I don't want people to think is that it's easy or simple, or that we all say you should get all the customers right away. Generally, you definitely have a lot of victories, and I've enjoyed that, and that's been a lot of fun. But it's an invitation to enter an environment where you can predict that a lot of things are not going to go your way, but you're going to have the ability to stay oriented on your mission, vision, and values, and the impact you want to have, and stay anchored on that again and again, and steer your team, and then convert those challenges into opportunities. Check?
Check.
Check? Check. That's a lot of fun. That's a lot of fun, right? It's a lot of fun. Particularly if you're someone who enjoys challenges in that fast-paced environment, right? So the way I look at it is, so if you want to think about it again, you want to avoid the negative energy, the disconnection, the paralysis from being in that external locus of control, and you want to be in that turbo zone of positive energy, connection, and being active, right? This is what we want. This is what we want, right? Now here's the key question I have for you. Right now, if you had to say as a college student, what percentage of the time are you on turbo during the school year? What percentage of the time are you focused on what you can do to improve relationships? How you can respond to a difficult situation that arises with a classmate or a professor? And what percentage of the time are you kind of paralyzed by the things that have gone wrong, or the things that came up that you didn't expect, or the things that annoyed you? Because if you were to say, hey, I'm actually in turbo about 40% of the time, that means 60% of the time, you're not harnessing your intelligence, your creativity, your team, the power that you have. That'd be like if I let my son cry for a week about not having that Fortnite money. Instead, let's solve this problem in a half hour. And let's use the talents and abilities you already have. And let's go make that happen. And then we're going to move on to the next thing. So I think it's almost like, think about like a hot stove. Some of us are keeping our hands on a hot stove for weeks at a time. And we're letting that thing just burn through us when you could move over towards turbo, right? So when you see that slide from McKinsey that's talking about entrepreneurship, it's talking about social emotional learning, one of the key ones that you have control of is how you handle your agency throughout the world, right? I'll give you another example. When I was in college, I was a junior. I just ran into some tough challenges when I was a junior at Harvard. I actually started my sophomore year. And you know what I did? I said to myself, you know what? I always wanted to live in a different country. So back then, only 2% of students at Harvard studied abroad. They had one woman on the campus who was in charge of helping just a few students study abroad. I went, and I found her, and I set it up, and I lived in Madrid for a whole semester. It was a blast. Took classes all in Spanish, which by the way prepared me for that future Miami-Dade contract, right? Where I was having to translate all the courses into Spanish and have my team do that. So again, converting that negative or that rough patch into something that was fun, and something that years down the road, I took my wife back there for 10 days and we toured Spain. I showed her all the different places we had gone. We had a great time. How can you turn some of that frustration, some of that challenge, some of the roadblocks, some of the things that may be constantly annoying you, that hot stove that you have in your life right now, how can you turbo that? How can you get that area where it's 20% turbo up to 80% turbo? So that's the second message. The first message was really about unabashedly stepping into who you are from a position of strength. Look at your background and not letting any of those wounds that you have prevent you from presenting yourself from a place of power. The second is, it's really about agency. It's about locus of control. It's about how quickly you move into solving problems of any kind, personal, professional, and having that kind of impact, and training yourself to live in that zone again and again and again as a way of life. I think it's critical. It's something you can do now and throughout the rest of your college career and while you're in business, and it's something that's very powerful. So, again, I'm going to pause for 90 seconds, and I'm going to let you talk about this. What does turbo mean to you? What percentage would you put, where would you say you are in terms of turbo? What percent? What do you think of my brother's story? How that inspired me to start my business, and I've kind of gone through that journey. Talk among yourselves for a few minutes. Thanks.